We're ready for the start. They're off.
Welcome in, everybody. It's the First Call Podcast. First Bet and Express Bet represented here with Jeff Siegel and Jeremy Plonk. We're going to handicap 8 stakes races as we do each and every Friday. Talk about the great promotions going on, handicapping tournaments, a lot across the First family this weekend. Jeff, it's almost Valentine's Day, so love is in the air over the course of this weekend. Let's pick some winners here so the guys can afford the roses this week, huh?
Yeah, I'm all for that. That's great. You've got good racing around. We've got races from Oaklawn, the Big A, Tampa Bay's got some important races. Gulfstream and out here at Santa Anita. So we're all over the place here. Hopefully we can find some winners and pad the bankroll for what is really important, Valentine's Day, right?
In my house, especially, my daughter's birthday is Valentine's Day, so I get hit twice in the pocketbook on Valentine's Day. So, we got to pick some winners this weekend. Let's do it in these 8 races as we have on our schedule this week. It's the Dixie Belle from Oaklawn for 3-year-old fillies on the path towards the fantasy, perhaps. The Withers en route to the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct, rescheduled from last week because of cold temps and high winds. At Aqueduct this weekend with the rescheduled Withers. Tampa Bay Downs has its big prep day for Tampa Bay Derby Day, featuring the Sam F. Davis for the 3-year-olds, the Suncoast for the 3-year-old fillies. Bunch of stakes races there on Saturday at Tampa. We'll take a look at the 2 main events. Gulfstream Park goes turf sprint crazy on Saturday. The ladies and the Colts and Geldings are going in action in separate turf sprint stakes races. It's Derby Day in Northern California, El Camino Real Derby Day, and they'll compete for an automatic berth in the Preakness Stakes and Kentucky Derby wagering, or Kentucky Derby qualifying points, I should say, in that El Camino Real Derby. And then it's the Sweet Life Stakes at Santa Anita to wrap up our 8 stakes package. Let's go to the Dixie Belle, Oaklawn Park on Saturday. Jeff, we haven't had a lot of stakes races on the podcast from Oaklawn. Their early meet in December, kind of heating up now as we get closer towards the spring. Their stakes schedule picking up importance. The Dixie Belle's $150,000 6-furlong sprint. These fillies could end up in the fantasy towards the end of the meet, or they may stay going short. We had a really impressive sprinter last year at Keeneland, winning the Myrtlewood Stakes, named Key of Life. She's back in action. Let's let the fans take a look at her from her win at Keeneland last year in the Myrtlewood Stakes, and then we'll get your opinion of this race.
They turn for home. Somebody's problem trying to come after Key of Life, who still has the lead, though. And Key of Life leads it by 1.5 lengths, now by 2, 2.5, 3 lengths good. At the 8th pole, Lady Rattler down toward the inside, tries to move up and challenge for second. Baby got backspin, runs from the outside along with Satin Doll, but well behind Key of Life. And Key of Life has the Myrtlewood Stakes wrapped up for jockey Florent Giroux. Key of Life, impressive here this afternoon in victory.
So Key of Life at the end of last year looked like she might be one of the best 3-year-old filly sprinters among the, or 2-year-old filly sprinters among that class. She had been hammered in the wagering every single start, Jeff, but then she got beat at Churchill. So did the campaign catch up with her? What do you make of her coming out now as a 3-year-old?
I think it probably did. I mean, she ran 5 times, and that's a lot for a 2-year-old filly. She was 2-5 in the final race, a listed stakes, but it was a $200,000 event, so I can understand why Brad would go for it. Red Carpet Ready beat her. It was a very good filly, obviously. So she may have been one race over the top. She gets Lasix now in her first start as a 3-year-old, and the work tab isn't flashy, but Brad's solid with layoff horses. I don't think he'd be running a short horse necessarily here. So I think Key of Life is clearly the one to beat. Now, John Sadler's got one shipping in from Santa Anita. She won a 2-year-old stakes in her debut back in June of last year. I remember she had been purchased in the 2-year-old sale, which was very impressive at Ocala, and she had trained very well. It wasn't surprising to me at all that she wired the field, and she beat a pretty good filly that day in Tom's Regret. Then she had an injury coming out of that race. I remember talking to John after the race about 3 days later and said, when are you going to run that filly back? And he said, not for a while. She had an issue come up. So, but she's back, and I have to think that she is ready as well. But in looking at her form, she earned the 78 Byron number in her debut, and that's not quite what Key of Life was earning. I think Key of Life back there and proven with a better foundation with 5 starts. I think you have to give her the edge. I'd be very curious to see how Stone Silent tries to run this race. Is she going to bust out there and grab her by the throat, or is she going to sit outside and try to take her late? It'll be interesting way that race shapes up. But I got to go with the proven element there, and that's Key of Life. She's kind of like, I won't say the home court advantage because she's actually shipping from Fairgrounds to Oaklawn, but she's back there already, and I just have to give her the edge. Good race, though. It's a non-graded race, and it's a lot better than that. These are graded stakes company fillies for sure.
And when you look at Stone Silent, this is like one of those definitions of a win early type, right? She's by Adios Charlie, a $3,000 stallion, and brought 410,000 at the 2-year-old sale. So that's a ready-made product, right? You're buying on a filly who's working fast and is expected to win right out of the box. And she, repaid them with that stakes victory in the Fasig-Tipton debutante at Santa Anita in June. So she was a win early type. Does she develop as 3 and coming back off that June layoff? That'll be a big question mark in there. But that's a good handicapping nugget. I don't care if you're looking at Delta Downs or you're looking at the top fillies in the country or colts in the country. When you have a horse by a low price stallion who brings a big price in a 2-year-old sale, they're almost ready to go right out of the box and are ready-made products. I think that's a good angle to take a look at. Not only, not specifically for this race, but when you're handicapping, debut horses, 2-year-old horses, especially as we get to that time of the year. Let's go to the Wither Stakes at Aqueduct next up. Again, this race was scheduled last weekend, so it's going to tighten up the path maybe to the Gotham, to the Wood Memorial for some of those that are a week later. The field was redrawn. It's not the exact same field as it was a week ago. Young Frau has now joined the fray, coming north from Payson Park in South Florida for the Red Hot Bill Mott Barn. So we added one to the mix with Young Frau. Did that change your estimation of this year's Wither Stakes, Jeff? Who'd you end up with?
I ended up with Arctic Arrogance. This is a colt that won a stakes race. He was a New York bred, and then ran in the Remsen, ran really well that day, was 11 lengths clear of everybody else. Came back in the Jerome and got beat, but was 7 clear of everybody else. So he's running winning races, and it's curious to me, inside speed and blinkers going on, and I think this is a colt that might actually benefit from blinkers based on what we saw not only in the Remsen but the Jerome. I think he needs something to maybe he's been looking around. Maybe he's not, but concentrating. Or maybe Linda Rice is just experimenting, saying, look, throw blinkers on. Maybe that'll help you. I don't know, but I think he's a quality colt. He his numbers are solid, and he's breezed well since that last race. And if he's going to be a decent 3-year-old, this is the kind of race he really should be able to win.
Yeah, let's go back and take a look at that Jerome. He was cutting back from 1 1/8 to a mile in that one when he locked up with Lugan Knight as the favorite. He was bet to 6-5. Here's Arctic Arrogance in the Jerome last out.
They are head and head here. Arctic Arrogance is ready to challenge a very game Lugan Knight down towards the inside, trying to rally on his general banker, and from the back it's Neural Network, who still has 5 lengths to make up a final furlong, and they are shoulder to shoulder here in the Jerome. Arctic Arrogance did not run by Lugan Knight, who's very game to the inside for a 16th to go. Lugan Knight is still there. Arctic Arrogance couldn't pass. Lugan Knight game and wins the Jerome. It's Lugan Knight over Arctic Arrogance, then General Baker, and Neural Network in 1 minute 37.77 seconds.
Now you get the third place finisher in there, General Banker, back to take them on at a longer distance this time. We don't have the winner of that race coming back. Lugan Knight's going to bypass this race back to the 1 1/8 in the Withers. We do have a newcomer, though, to the group, and it's Hit Show, Jeff. This is a horse I'm really interested in. I like this one as a potential future wager type horse last year after the big win at Keeneland in the debut, going 7/8 of a mile. Most Brad Cox horses show early speed and then kind of even re-break at the top of the stretch. This is a pure closer, and Hit Show is a horse who can finish. I think the 1 1/8 is going to suit well. This looks like good placement to me. If they run at Oaklawn, they're dealing, with the shorter stretch run. They're dealing with some of those races that use the 16th pole finish line. Here they get the chance now to just let it loose, a 1 1/8. I think Hit Show is going to be a very interesting 3-year-old, and I think he's going to be tough in this spot too.
No question. He's the one you have to worry about the most. Arctic Arrogance in that race, if you noticed, he had his head cocked when he was running, and maybe with the blinkers he'll
there, yeah.
he'll zoom in and go straight. But Hit Show, as you mentioned, Candy Ride Colt won 2 out of 3. You don't know who he's beating when he's beating them, but he's been bet every time. That's another very good handicapping angle. If you got a Brad Cox horse and he's like 8-1, 7-1, 13-1, you figure, oh yeah, he's not that good. But this horse has been hammered every time. Yeah. So obviously they like him a lot. This is a logical place to go. I mean, Brad's got so many of them, he's got to split them up anyway. And this looks like a colt that will absolutely like 1 mile and 1/8. And I could see him winning and winning off just as easy as anything else, just on the basis of the distance and the progressive. And, Candy Rides, they get better with age anyway. So it's a 2-horse race. I went with Arctic Arrogance, but Hit Show is absolutely the one to beat.
Let's take a look at our next set of stakes races up on the schedule for the podcast at Tampa Bay Downs. We're going to look at the Suncoast, race number 9, and also the Sam F. Davis, race number 10. We talked earlier about Key of Life making her 3-year-old return in the Dixie Belle. Well, we've got the champion 3-year-old filly making her return. Her name is Wonder Wheel, and she's going to run in the Suncoast for Mark Cassie. Let's go back to her crowning achievement in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies.
Race, and the two of them will turn for home together. Chocolate Gelato's going to come wide. Atomically is in behind horses, and Wonder Wheel is getting going, and she swings up on the outside, full of run. Wonder Wheel comes charging up on the outside as they arrive at the final 16th. She takes command, and Wonder Wheel and Tyler Gaffleon gets his first Breeders' Cup win.
We know she can navigate the inside. You saw it there and was able to get out. She was the 5 in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. She was on the rail when she won the Alcibiades at Keeneland. She's on the rail here in the Suncoast Stakes. Again, versatile running style. Do we see her back to the Alcibiades going to the front, or would we see her from off the pace and relaxing more like she did in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies when she took everybody by surprise with the change of tactics?
That's an interesting thing, because when Wonder Wheel won the Alcibiades, she had the rail center, and I thought the only reason why she won was because she had that ground-saving trip. Not that I didn't like her going in, and we did, but she was life and death to win that. I remember Mark Cassie was interviewed after the race and was asked about, now you've got the favorite for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, and he said, well, maybe I do, but she's going to have to run a lot better in that race than she just won, even though she won. It looked like she got lucky. And then after she got messed up and fell back, I completely, during the running of the race, I said, well, she's beat. Let's look. And she still managed to win. So that to me was very impressive, the fact that she could change her style. Now, she actually ran a little better, I thought, obviously, in the Breeders' Cup Juveniles when they took her back. But on the other hand, you go 1 mile and 40 at Tampa and you got the rail. You really don't want to give that up. You don't want the whole field crossing over in front of you and then getting shuffled back and taking dirt and all that. So I got a hunch they're going to let her roll out of there and get early position and then take it from there. It's a long year. This is just a start. But when you got a champion filly like this, you generally don't want to get them beat. You just don't. And so I would have to – and I'm not saying it's a gamble at even money, but I would be surprised if she's not pretty close to being ready to win. I mean, I'm not saying she's completely cranked up, but they probably figured this would be an easy spot to bring her back. And I'm actually interested in Julia Shining on the outside. Yeah. Also, I mean, she's undefeated as well. Her numbers aren't that strong, and she's got that bad box out there. But, Curlin on a Dreaming of Julia, 2 for 2, Group 2 winner already. I mean, I don't think Pletcher would be running her if he didn't think she was ready as well. This is a rather difficult race for non-graded stakes at Tampa Bay. It shouldn't be this tough, right?
For 150 grand. Yeah. And, Julia Shining's been a drop back 1-run closer, and that might be the tip off that if you think this is a 2-horse race, and it probably is based on who's involved in here. There's some other nice horses in here, but when you have a champion and then you have a regally bred horse who's 2 for 2 winning the Demoiselle, you figure it's these 2 horses. Julia Shining is going to be back and try to make a run. So if you say, what do you want to do with Wonder Wheel? Well, I'd get as far ahead of her as I can, right, to start with. Sure. You don't try to kick with a kicker at the end, try to put her away. So just the style of the one major foe in this race, almost tells me, and then the rail as well.
Yeah.
Just go, go and avoid all the showdown with the other co-favorite maybe late in the race. But what an interesting race. Wonder Wheel, Julia Shining, inside, outside, probably divergent running styles in here. Should be a really fun edition of the Suncoast Stakes, race number 9 at Tampa on Saturday. The main event Saturday at Tampa Bay Downs is the main prep for the Tampa Bay Derby, the mile and the 16th. Sam F. Davis, a grade 3 company here. This race hasn't had a lot of impact on the Kentucky Derby. It will certainly have some impact on the Tampa Bay Derby. And the field that we have, Jeff, is a big one. A field of 12 in this year's Sam F. Davis. It's as big or bigger than any race we've seen on the Triple Crown Trail so far to date. There aren't any just wildly, top 2-3 type horses in this race, but you got one not far off of that in the Remsen winner, WHNL, a horse who is named for the 4 initials of 4 of the owners. WHNL is the pronunciation. Danny Gargan sends this one out off back-to-back wins. Did lose the debut at Saratoga. It was really a nice race with Instant Coffee winning that Saratoga maiden sprint. Arthur's Ride was in there. Arthur's Ride is back on Saturday at Gulfstream, incidentally. WHNL has won 2 straight, both at Aqueduct, both in the slop. So do you think horse for course? Do you think wet track freak? Do you think, look, just really appreciated stretching out to the mile and an eighth in the Remsen? Now we're back to a little bit more of a brilliant play, right? A mile and a 16th at Tampa. You're not looking at much as a plot as you would be a mile and an eighth at the end of the year at Aqueduct. This is an interesting comeback spot. Should be the horse to beat, though, right?
I think so. And look, you got a lot of colts in this race that have pedigrees that should allow these colts to get better with distance and age, which is one of the reasons why I'm not quite sure what we got. We've got a Classic Empire, we've got Curlin, you've got Bernardini. These are all sires of horses in this race. Right. Good Magic, WHNL's sire, will get you a horse I'm pretty sure that will develop over time. Justify's got a colt in here named Champion's Dream who's got a shot. So this is it's kind of a springboard race, and I'm not sure what you see on the form is what you're going to get. These horses develop and mature overnight. WHNL has already shown that he can get a mile and a quarter. He's shown he can handle it off track. I think he's okay. I really do. Yeah. And I'm sure that Danny wants to win this race. He's got a hope that maybe this colt could be a Derby type colt and maybe take this race and use it as a springboard to the Tampa Bay Derby. So I like him. I do. I don't know whether he's a great gamble at 9-5 on the morning line. There are too many question marks to say that he has to win, but he's on my list as a colt that's got a chance to develop really nicely.
And you get a chance to see Arctic Arrogance, who was the narrow runner-up in the Remsen Stakes a little bit earlier in the Withers. Maybe that gives you kind of a little line on that race. Let's go back and take a look at Arctic Arrogance and WHNL throwing it down in the stretch of the Remsen. I believe John Embriel on the call.
WNL on the outside of Arctic Arrogance. The two of them are right together as they head for home. 3/4 in 1, 12 in 1. Tuskegee Airman is all out in third, but now 4 lengths from the lead as they come down for the 8th pole. Arctic Arrogance on the inside and WNL on the outside. The front two have separated themselves from the rest of the field. WNL on the outside narrowly. Arctic Arrogance continues to battle on. They come on for the finish, and it is WNL to win the Remsen by a long neck.
You start to feel for Arctic Arrogance in this podcast. He's had 2 narrow defeats in the Remsen and the Jerome. He's in it. He's in the mix. Again, we mentioned earlier in the Withers are going to have blinkers. Maybe that could really help that one. WHNL, the favorite in the Tampa Bay Downs prep for the Tampa Derby, the Sam F. Davis. Jeff, interesting. We got several horses in here coming out of the Mucho Macho Man Stakes. That race did not come back and flatter itself very well in the Holy Bull last week. It was Bill Mott with a couple horses who were not part of the Mucho Macho Man cast that kind of came in and ran roughshod over the Holy Bull cast. So those Mucho Macho Man alumni, I'm not quite sure what to make of them. I think a horse to watch in here is not like the post position for Litigate in this spot, but boy, do I like this horse's pattern. This is a horse whose grandsire is Arch and whose granddam is granddam sire is Mine Shaft. This is like route on route and has run 2 one-turn races, one at Aqueduct, and then last time out in a mile allowance. I think this is a horse who's going to love 2 turns, get much better around 2 turns than 1. And boy, the workout since the race on January 8th, big one January 21st, then a bullet on January 28th, followed up by a bullet fastest of 31 on February 4th. Todd Pletcher's Litigate to me looks like a horse who's getting good, second off the layoff, right? Since that comeback race, 3 big works, 2 bullets. I just wish it wasn't in the 11 hole, but I think Litigate's going to be interesting in here.
I agree. I looked at the two one-turn races and then the stretch out. That's what you like, especially with a colt by Blame. He gave 370,000 for him as a yearling. He must be a good-looking colt for sure. Numbers are rising. He took a forward move there, that's for sure. And I think you're spot on this colt. I looked at him and I was prepared to try to pick him, and then I'm saying, what kind of trip is he going to get from the 11 hole?
Yeah,
and I couldn't really envision one that I would want. I figure if I pick him by the time they hit the 7/8 pole, I'm going to say, what did I do this for? So,
right.
but you're right.
I say that in a lot of races.
You're right. And there's a colt that if he were to win this race, post and all, and just in his third start with the pedigree that he has, that it's an important race for Litigate. He's either going to be a Derby prospect or not. And, he's got a tough task here, but if he can pass it, then whatever you see now, you're going to see a lot better in months to come, I'm pretty sure.
And for all the Bob Baffert and for all the Brad Cox we've talked about for the last 6 weeks on the Triple Crown Trail, winning seemingly every race, suddenly Todd Pletcher's back in the game here, right?
Yes.
I mean, if Litigate's good, Tappet Trice was fantastic last week at Allowance Company, headed to a stakes race near you soon. And then he's got 3 works now in, and the 4th work this weekend coming up for last year's 2-year-old champion Forte as he gears up towards the Fountain of Youth. So Todd's going to be well represented in Florida, at Keeneland, up in New York over the course of the next 2 months. And his staff is starting to gather. His team is building now towards the potential Kentucky Derby dates. Let's go back to the schedule for this weekend's racing as we go stakes hunting at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. In turf sprints, the ladies' turf sprint goes as race number 7 on the card. The Gulfstream Park turf sprint will be race number 11. Let's take a look at these two in back-to-back succession here. Jeff, who do you think in the ladies' turf sprint going 5/8 a mile on the grass? Miss J. McKay, pretty solid favorite in here coming off of victory. Do you like her back?
Yeah, I do. She's won 2 out of 3 at Gulfstream Park. I like that angle where I know she likes the course and she's won twice, and she's coming off a nice win in a listed stakes that is essentially the same type of race as we see here. She's a late running turf sprinter, so sometimes you can kind of predict that maybe they might have some trouble getting up going 5/8. On the other hand, some of these late running turf sprinters, they are very effective because they only really have a short run, and you can get them behind horses, and it's okay because when you ask them to run, they'll give you about a 1/16 of a mile blast, and then that's about what they want to do. But in her last race, Miss J. McKay did that. I mean, she just only runs like the last 16th, and if she can get clear and get room to fire, she's a hard filly to beat.
That was the Abundancia Stakes. The top 4 finishers and 4 of the top 6 are all back. Let's go back and take a look at it with Pete Aiello.
Miss J. McKay wants to follow her and wheel to the outside. Miss J. McKay is in the clear now for Tyler G, and here she comes. There's 1/8 of a mile to go. Miss J. McKay charging hard down the center. Stony Point imagery at the rail. 16th to go. Miss J. McKay is powered forward. Nice ride by Gaffleon. The Abundancia goes to Miss J. McKay. She defends her crown.
She looked pretty much the best there, Jeff. She even had to kind of hesitate a little bit as she kind of ran up on a runner as she was going by and was able to, reshift the gears, which only good horses can do. Hard to imagine horses in that same race coming back and beating her. Mamba Wamba was 4th in there. I keep waiting for her to run a big race. She's inconsistent. It's every other. Yeah. And she's on the other this time. Maybe she fires. Even on numbers, you look at her, she was 80, 40, 80, and it drops. Maybe she's going to run a big one here for Brian Lynch. But Mamba Wamba at a price, I wouldn't be afraid to just be stubborn and try one more time. But I've dipped into her pool a few too many times already. But maybe the price will be right this time. If she's in that 10-1 range, I think she's worth a look in that particular spot. Let's go to the 11th on the card. It's Gulfstream Turf Sprint. These are the Colts version of what we saw in the ladies Turf Sprint. Obviously, a good field size in here. A field of 10. We've got some veterans like the Critical Way, Sheki Shabazz, Karotari. Good group in here, pretty familiar runners. Belgrano's coming off a win in the Janus last time. I know Brian Netto in our Coast to Coast Pick 5 sequence liked Belgrano a little bit. Coast to Coast Pick 5 includes this Gulfstream Park Turf Sprint on Saturday. Who'd you end up with, Jeff?
I looked at Belgrano, and the only reason, and I'm not saying he can't win, and I'm not saying you shouldn't use him for sure, but he's won 22 times at Gulfstream Park on the grass. He's only won 3 times. He's got 7 other wins. Now, he did just win at Gulfstream Park over a good turf course, although they ran fast, so it probably was pretty firm. So, yeah, I can see him for sure. But this is a group that kind of takes turns, I mean,
right.
Aerotara, Yes, I Am Free, won the race last year. I could see a number of these horses. I just went out on a limb and tried a 20-1 shot just because I wanted to find a fresh face. And my pal Matty is a horse that has only had 14 starts, so we don't really know what his upside is. I do know that he's really consistent. He's genuine. His numbers are rising. He had a fast win at Remington Park that was visually very impressive. Obviously not against this group, but he earned a 96 Beyer number. He won by 5. And I also think he might actually be the quickest in the field. The other thing about my pal Matty is since that race in October at Remington, he's actually been entered 3 times. One at Delta, which he scratched, which was going to be a dirt race. I'm not sure what they were thinking there. And then 2 other races. Most recently, I think it was at Fairgrounds where it was off the turf. So he's been ready for a while. It's not like they're starting him back. And looks like he's been working. The connections must think he has a little bit of a look shipping in from Fairgrounds. And again, a 20-1 for a horse that if he breaks running, he might be on the lead. I'm willing to gamble on it. He doesn't run or look like a sprinter. He's got a long, lengthy horse, with a long stride. So, but he's quick. He is very quick. And again, with just 14 starts as an 8.5, maybe there's more to give. So I'm willing to try a 20-1, number 6, my pal Matty, to hopefully break running, open up, and maybe keep on going. That's my long shot pick in the Gulfstream Park Turf Sprint.
If there's a place where you're going to give away class as an edge, it turf sprint, right? I mean, you're looking for brilliance, horses in really good form. If you're going to step up in class, a turf sprint's not a bad place to do it. So let's see what that long shot play can do for you at Gulfstream Park. If you're handicapping Gulfstream on Saturday, a couple other options for you. The Beat the Host contest is going to include 5 races from Gulfstream and 5 from Santa Anita. So put your money where your picks are and try to take down Ron Nicoletti, who's our host this week in the Express Bet Beat the Host contest. Play for your share of $60,000 in seasonal and weekly prizes. Just 2 hosts remain after 5 weeks. This is week 6 of 8 this week to sweep the host, and they're eligible for a $6,000 bonus, but only 2 people have been able to beat the host now in all 5 weeks. Tom Quigley did a good job last week. There were 14 going into last week. He took down 12 of them. But again, it's just the sweep the host bonus. You're playing for seasonal prizes, build up your bankroll throughout the course of the season. Still 3 weeks to play on Beat the Host, and then qualify for the Beat the Host final in March. It's about 500 players who have already, 550, I believe, who have already made their way into that season-ending tournament. Beat the Host just once in any of the 8 contest weeks, and you'll qualify for that final tournament. And also, tournament players on Saturday, Gulfstream Park is going to be part of the $1,500 National Handicapping Championship Super Qualifier Tournament. If you're into playing more of the bigger bankroll tournaments, live money, $1,500. The final 4 races at Gulfstream on Saturday, and then the entire Santa Anita card make up the contest races. Go to expressbet.com, check out the tournaments tab for all the information and the register for the $1,500 NHC Super Qualifier, or Beat the Host. Beat the Host is just $5 win bets on your 10 races that are picked by Ron Nicoletti. Those races will be posted on the website on Friday, so you can get a handicapping head start on Saturday. Ron gets to pick the races. Again, 5 from Gulfstream, 5 from Santa Anita. Jeff, let's turn our attention to Golden Gate Fields next for the El Camino Real Derby, $100,000 mile and an eighth race on the Tapeta surface. This is Northern California's step towards the Triple Crown. Kentucky Derby qualifying points are on the line here if you're a Triple Crown nominee, and then or if you're eligible for, you don't have to be a Triple Crown nominee to get the points, but you have to be from a trainer who's eligible. Bob Baffert's got 2 in the El Camino. He's not eligible for the Kentucky Derby qualifying points, But there's also an automatic berth to the Preakness Stakes for the winner of this race, where fees are paid into the Preakness. Rombauer took that path a couple years ago in winning the Preakness Stakes. So this could be a very important race towards somebody's Triple Crown hopes. For us gamblers, we're trying to find the winner of this one, and that's why I made it the Express Bet Race of the Week. So I've got a write-up on this race on the websites and in the email newsletter. Who do you like in the El Camino Real Derby, Jeff?
Well, I handicapped this race, and every time I went from 1 to 8, top to bottom, and ended up liking about 5 of these. I ended up finally settling on Passerando, but only because he's got proven form over this all-weather track. 5 starts, 3 wins in 2 seconds. Plus, he's a closer in a race that may very well have a pretty quick pace in it.
Yes.
Harson, a sprinter, stretching out. They're not taking him back for sure. No. And Nullarbor, Bob's horse, he's a colt that I definitely feel wants to be let roll. I don't think they want to grab him. And then others in here that certainly look like they would prefer to be close up. And then every time I do that, they end up going the first quarter in 24-4, 49 or something. So it's a very volatile situation. Yeah. I'll tell you what, Jeremy, at Golden Gate Fields, this is the hardest track in the world to project what the pace will be. It's an all-weather track. So most guys don't send horses anyway. And very, very few of them, when they do gut them out of there, they hang on. So I don't know. I ended up with Passerando just because he's proven on the course, and he's not particularly fast on numbers, but the race should set up for him. But if you have an opinion stronger than mine, I'm sure I would like to hear it, because I'm struggling with this race.
Well, we're in the same boat, I'll tell you that. But you got the left oar and I've got the right oar. The horse he beat in the Gold Rush Stakes, Chase the Chaos, is the one I go with. And let's go back and take a look at that Gold Rush Stakes where Passerando gets the victory. Chase the Chaos was 65-1 and almost put a scare in him. Let's take a look with Matt Dinnerman's call.
They all have to catch Clovis Connection. He's got a furlong to go. He's getting tired, though. Here comes Chase the Chaos at 60-1, and Passerando's getting into it, too. Obes has run a massive race after being so far back early, but Passerando is bearing down, takes the lead. Passerando to win the Gold Rush under Catalina Martinez. Chase the Chaos with a huge effort at a huge price. Obes...
Now, these are two closers with similar styles, right? One made the first run, the other one got the last lap. I think that's the way this race is going to be won in 1 1/8. Harson's never had a horse in front of him in 2 starts going 6 furlongs. He's going fast. Right. One of the Bobs is going fast. If not, Gilmore as well from the rail will be showing some speed. That's Southern California fractions. I don't think that horse is going to be too far out of it either. I think this race is going to be won with somebody who makes a final good late move. Now, since that last race, this is why I like Passerando went and ran okay in the Cal Cup Derby, but didn't seem to move forward, certainly not on numbers. But boy, would a move Chase the Chaos made since that last race. The race may have seemed to come out of nowhere at 65-1, followed it up with a 7-length win in Allowance Company, and has worked well since then. 3 works since, including a 47-4. I think this is a horse who's gotten really good all of a sudden for Ed Motor Jr., and I think Chase the Chaos is going to be the horse who gets the setup and it's just like Mr. Right Now. He seems to be peaking. So we have the same idea. Passerando, Chase the Chaos, the 2 horses who have run well over this track. They've run in Stakes Company. The distance shouldn't be an issue, and the setup is going to be great for him. So it's one of those 2, and I'm going to take Chase the Chaos.
Okay, and I did watch his last race, the Allowance race, and liked it. I didn't think he was beating a whole lot. That's why it was even money. But man, he did it the right way, and he wasn't really knocked about in the final furlong. It wasn't like they were driving and whipping and whatever. He was kind of had something left, and he actually absolutely acted like a horse that would like 1 1/8. Sometimes even these middle distance horses, you figure that's about as far as they want to run, but. Right. Chase the Chaos certainly acted like a horse that would go on. And if I like Passerando, then why not like Chase the Chaos just as much, if not more? Yep. So, I can see where you're coming from there.
All right, let's go to Santa Anita on Saturday for the Sweet Life Stakes. It's our final of 8 stakes races to preview. Sweet Life is a downhill turf sprint. We're going 6.5 down the hill for $100,000. These are 3-year-old fillies. Jeff, these are fun and exciting races. Everybody loves the downhill turf sprints. Who do you like to be posing in the winner's circle after?
Well, another one of these situations where you can make a case for almost anybody. I ended up with fun money at 6-1 because she's run well down the hill. I kind of would like to have seen her win one of her last 4 because she certainly ran well enough to win. She didn't. She couldn't kind of seal the deal, but she's been running well. Most recently, she was a good second on the dirt, but I don't think that's her preferred surface. She's run well on the grass, 2 races back, second to the Wild. Grazer, who's a really nice filly, who would probably be a short price here. But, I mean, she's just one of several that could win. I like the fact that she's got enough early speed to be outside either on the lead or pressing it. So she's going to be in a good spot. I actually was visually impressed with number 7, Itzel, when she won, even though that was a maiden claimer. But it was on grass on the flat court, claimed by Peter Miller, and he raises her up in the stakes competition. I can see her step forward, lightly raced daughter of Motown. So there's one. And then Manhattan Jungle with the route to sprint angle. That's a good angle for horses dropping back and running down the hill. She ran second in the Blue Norther. I could see her. A number of these have credentials to win. And I wouldn't take a short price, let's put it that way. And if you're playing rolling exotics, spread as deep as you can afford to, because there's so many of these fillies that we don't know enough about to know whether they're going to like the hill or not, but they might, and it's that kind of grass grab bag. So I'll go with fun money. I'm not saying she's a single, but at 6-1, I think you got to use her.
Couple jockey notes for you on Saturday at Santa Anita. Flavian Pratt will be at Oaklawn to ride Key of Life in the Dixie Belle, so no Flavian Pratt at Santa Anita. And John Velasquez is going to be riding at Aqueduct on Saturday, so no Johnny V on the West Coast. Sounds like a big day for Juan Hernandez.
Always a big day for Juan Hernandez.
Yeah,
whether or not they're there or not, it's going to be a big day.
So keep an eye on that. If you see a couple horses where there's rider changes and you're curious why they are. Again, Pratt out of town and also Johnny V out of town. So that will certainly affect how the tote board shakes out too on Saturday at Tampa. Couple reminders for you. Again, we've got the $10 free bet on the Coast to Coast Pick 5. Those races on Saturday will be races 9, 10, and 11 at Gulfstream Park, and races 3 and 4 at Santa Anita. So the Coast to Coast Pick 5 on Saturday will be Gulfstream 9, 10, and 11, and Santa Anita races 3 and 4. If you're looking ahead to Sunday's Coast to Coast Pick 5, we have those races for you too. It'll be Gulfstream 8, 9, and 10, as well as races 5 and 6 at Santa Anita. So Sunday's Coast to Coast Pick 5 races will be Gulfstream 8, 9, 10, Santa Anita 5 and 6. Jeff and Brian Natta will have videos on social media handicapping both Saturday and Sunday's Coast to Coast Pick 5. So be sure to check those out. I want to remind you, I forgot to mention it when we were talking about the El Camino Real Derby. This is a great promotion. It's essentially 20% rebate up to $100, up to $20 on your rebate. Bet $100 on the Golden Gate Field card on Saturday, get $20 back. Now, if you bet $500, you're still only getting $20 back, but you got to bet $100 to get $20. What a great rebate that is. So be sure to take advantage of that. If you got a horse you like in the El Camino Real Derby, square 100 on the nose, maybe, and you'll get 20 of it back, regardless of what happens. Good chance to take a shot at Golden Gate. But again, a great promo there. And of course, we've got Beat the Host with Ron Nicoletti, and we have the $1,500 NHC Super Qualifier Tournament, the live money bankroll involving races from Gulfstream, the Final Four, and the full card from Santa Anita. Jeff, there is a lot going on, and I get a feeling that maybe we'll feel a little bit better about the Triple Crown Trail after another weekend. We get to see the Withers, we get to see the rescheduled Withers, and then of course we get the 2 races that were on the schedule for this week for the 3-year-olds, the Sam F. Davis and the El Camino Real Derby. It's a fun time of year.
It is, because you never know when the next star is going to show up, or the revelation comes. Wow, I didn't know that horse was that good, or okay, and now I got a Derby horse. And it's even in the maiden and allowance races too. I mean, it doesn't have to be just the stakes. So it's a great time of the year where things develop, and right now it's kind of wide open, and it'll get thinned out down the road. But at this stage, there are Derby horses or Derby prospects everywhere, and it's fun to keep track of them all.
I'll tell you one race to keep an eye on. That 10th race, part of the Coast to Coast Pick 5 on Saturday. The 10th at Gulfstream is a 1-mile dirt maiden special weight race. Arthur's Pride is back in there, the horse who ran second to Instant Coffee at Saratoga last summer for Bill Mott, who can't do anything wrong right now. Arthur's Pride's in a race there with a lot of blue blood regal pedigrees. That 10th at Gulfstream on Saturday has a Florida Derby feel to it. There's going to be a horse or two out of that race in the Florida Derby. And what we just saw last weekend, Tappet Trice looks as good as anything in South Florida off that allowance win last week. Jeff, he was really impressive. And like you said, this time of year, you never know when that next candidate throws his hat in the ring.
Yeah, Tampa Trice is my Derby horse right now. It could change, but
yeah,
not only because he, like I mentioned last week, he checks all the boxes: pedigree, connections, form, obviously, numbers wise, the ability to improve over distance to ground with maturity. He's got it all right now, and I'll be curious to see where he shows up next time out. Could be anywhere. I think actually that, to me, he's an ideal Wood Memorial type horse. I just think that's what maybe down the road will be, because he will stay for sure, and you gotta break him up. So why not go from there? I mean, anywhere. I'll follow him wherever he goes. I'll be behind him.
Right. The plans change, but these trainers who have multiple horses are making plans, right now. And I would think with Forte for Todd Pletcher, they've already said Fountain of Youth will be the first race back, and then it's Florida Derby or Bluegrass probably. And they like the idea of going back to Keeneland for the Bluegrass and getting to Kentucky a little earlier, because they've already won the Breeders' Futurity and the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last year over that track at Keeneland. So I would think Forte is Fountain of Youth and Bluegrass, so horses like Tappet Trice and what he has at Tampa this weekend and things like that are looking for those other spots. Like you said, Wood Memorial, race that he always supports, Florida Derby, a race that he'll definitely support. So it's that time where you're just kind of one race away from making that next plan, and really 2 races away from the Kentucky Derby. And some of the Derby horses, as we hit a Kentucky Derby future wager this weekend, available for betting with First Bet and Express Bet Friday through Sunday for the future wager. One of the points I made in Countdown to the Crown, Jeff, is some of these horses are really only one race away. Like Instant Coffee, they're not going to run Risen Star and Louisiana Derby. It's going to be Lecomte to the Louisiana Derby. He's one race away from the Kentucky Derby now. Some of those horses that ran in the Holy Bull this past weekend, they're not going to run all 3 legs of the series and go Fountain of Youth and Florida Derby probably. Some of the Holy Bull horses have one race left to go, and maybe even from the Bob Lewis, what we saw last weekend, maybe the Lewis horses, some of them will only have one more shot, Santa Anita Derby or Oaklawn or something like that. So some of these horses are only one start away from the Derby. I know the Derby seems like 3 months away on the calendar and it seems impossible, but the way the schedule works out, some of these horses are just one race away.
Exactly. And especially those that don't have to worry about points, that have already got enough to figure that they're going to be in. Anyway, great time of the year, and let's make some money.
Let's do it. We'll be back with you on Tuesday on It's Official to wrap up a big weekend of racing. So between now and then, good luck at the races. And for my partner, Jeff Siegel, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Have a great weekend.